One additional technique when creating data-driven tests is to create custom attributes that provide test data to test methods. Using custom attributes, we can share test data across multiple test methods and test classes, and they may also be useful for improving the readability of tests. So let's go and create a custom data attribute. We'll add a new class to our test project, and I'm going to call this Health Damage Data Attribute. We'll just go and add that. We'll make the class public. And what we're going to do here is we're going to inherit from XUnit's data attribute. To get access to this data attribute, we need to add a using statement here. So I'm going to add a using xunit.sdk statement. Notice we're getting this error here because we haven't implemented the abstract getData method from the base data attribute class. So if I hit Control and period, and then hit Enter to implement the abstract getData method. Notice as in previous examples, we're returning an IEnumerable of object array, and as we've already seen, each object array instance is going to represent an individual test case. So all we need to do in the getData method is to return an IEnumerable of object array representing the test cases. So we can do this by using yield return as we've already seen, and we can go ahead and build this. So the build has succeeded. How do we actually go and use our custom health damage data attribute? To use a custom attribute, all we need to do is come to the test method. I'm going to comment out this member data version, and we can simply apply our new health damage data attribute. xunit.net we'll now call the getData method from our custom attribute and run this test with the test data that was returned. Let's also go and modify our player character tests. Once again, I'm just going to comment out the member data version and use our custom attribute. If we build this and have a look in Test Explorer, we can see that we've got our non-player character tests and also our player character tests. If we want to add an additional test case, all we need to do is add a new object array to the return values. Once again, we'll choose the 75 damage version. We'll just build this again. And now in Test Explorer, we can see the 75 damage version showing up. We can also combine custom attributes with external data, so let's go and remove these lines. And I'll paste in the same code where we're reading from our testdata.csv file. And once again, we'll add the system.io and system.link usings. If we rebuild the solution now and head back to Test Explorer, we can see the different test cases. And once again, if we go and modify the CSV file, I'm going to add this 80 damage scenario. We'll save the CSV and rebuild the solution and have a look in Test Explorer. And now we can see the 80 damage version. Let's just run all these tests to make sure they still pass. And they do. So that's how we can create a custom test data attribute by inheriting from the data attribute class, implementing the getData method, and then using our custom attribute in our data-driven test methods. So that brings us to the end of this module. In this module, we started off by getting an overview of data-driven tests, and we learned that they can help us to reduce duplicated test code and so reduce the maintenance overhead going forward. We added some different tests to our player character, and we saw that we started to get duplicated test code. We then saw how we can refactor these multiple methods to a single data-driven test. To do this, we added test method parameters, and then we applied the theory attribute and also the inline data attribute. We learned that for each additional inline data attribute that we apply, we get another execution of the test method. We saw that if we want to share test case data, we can't do this using inline data, but we can use member data instead. We saw that we can return hard-coded data, and also how we can use member data to read test cases from an external source, in our case a CSV file. We then went and created a custom data source attribute. To do this, we inherited from xunit.net's data attribute class, and then we went and applied our custom attribute to our test methods. We learned that when we're using custom attributes, we can supply hard-coded data, and we can also read data from an external source. So that also brings us to the end of this course. If you want to learn more about xunit.net, check out the homepage at xunit.github.io. And if you want to have a look at the xunit.net source code, head over to the GitHub organization at github.com/xunit. You can also follow the XUnit team on Twitter. If you want to learn more about how to use xunit.net to test ASP.NET Core MVC apps, check out my Pluralsight course, ASP.NET Core MVC Testing Fundamentals. And also, if you're brand new to testing, you also might like to look at the bigger picture by checking out my testing automation, The Big Picture course. I'm Jason Roberts from Pluralsight, and I hope you enjoyed this course.